children. There was a boy who entered the zone. He didn't do anything. Other soldiers claim to have seen him standing, talking to people. That's it. And they dropped a grenade from a drone. In another incident, soldiers tried to kill a child riding a bicycle.
And they get prosecuted for it.
They have not been prosecuted. Alan, don't lie on television where people can fact you. None of them have been prosecuted.
Yes, they have been. I know they have been.
Which soldier was prosecuted for dropping a grenade on a child?
There are dozens
of them. You're lying on national TV. Piers Morgan can come back on the next episode and tell everyone that you're not telling the truth.
Dozens of them have been prosecuted.
Not a single Israeli soldier has been prosecuted for deliberately killing a Palestinian child. That is a lie. A demonstrable lie. Everyone watching right now.
That's
a lie. I'm sorry. You can't say
hang on. Fighting for the eradication of Western civilization. You are crossing the line.
That is not a crime. That's free speech.
Incitement of
no,
you are confused about the law.
Are you kidding me?
Incitement of violence.
You've lost your mind if you think
the eradication of our civilization is a violent call.
Is a crime?
Yes.
No, it's not.
Yes, call for violence is indeed a crime.
I don't agree with it, but
yes, it is.
Free speech in this country is a very broad definition. You cannot arrest people for speech crimes. And by the way, there's no incitement of coming from the Republican Party, which sends a mob to the Capitol to attack people like you, and all those people were pardoned. Dan,
what does destruction mean?
Spare me your faux morality. Your party pardoned 1,500 domestic terrorists.
My party didn't pardon anyone.
I haven't heard you condemn Donald Trump.
My party didn't pardon
Yes,
anyone.
they did. They supported Donald Trump.
They were. What do you even?
Okay, will you condemn it now? Will you condemn Donald Trump? Yes. Will you condemn Donald Trump pardoning violent terrorists?
I tell you what. Why don't we move? Why don't we? Okay, time out. We've run out of time. We've run out of time. We've run out of time.
We've run out of time. That is capability, right? They have enough highly enriched uranium to build up to 9 bombs, I believe. They have 400 kilograms of uranium.
So that is an imminent threat if it's in the wrong hands, right? We can agree on that.
No, it's not.
But why not?
No, because unfortunately having a civil nuclear program is totally fine. Having enriched uranium is fine. The issue is if you weaponize it and have a weapons program. And Tulsi Gabbard, no friend of radical Islam, Donald Trump's director of national intelligence, said in March that the US intelligence community's consensus view is that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, does not have a nuclear weapon, does not authorize a nuclear weapons program. The IAEA appears in that report, you must have seen the line in their summary, said there are no credible indications of an ongoing, undeclared, structured nuclear program. Even the IAEA says there's no nuclear weapons program. Their boss, the IAEA chief, Pierce, said last week, you cannot attack nuclear facilities in Iran. So, no, it's not an imminent threat. And under international law, Pierce, this is the key point. If a weapon is a year away, you cannot say we're under imminent threat. That does not give you a right to self-defense. Otherwise, everyone in the world would go around just bombing people. You and I oppose Russia's invasion of Ukraine. We agree on that, right? Putin claimed that Ukraine would one day attack Russia with NATO support. That's why I'm doing it. That was a bullshit argument. You and I rejected Putin's bullshit argument in Ukraine. You and I have rejected the Israeli bullshit argument now in Gaza. You don't believe what they're saying about Gaza. I don't know why you're believing them on this. By the way, Donald Trump in December 2015 said we need to ban every Muslim coming into the United States. Do you support that Islamophobic, racist position?
He said, if I remember accurately what he said, it was after an appalling terror attack where I think over 50 people got murdered. And he said, we're going to have a short-term suspension on people coming in from the same countries that Obama had done this to.
No, he didn't.
Until we figure out what's going on.
Not true, Piers. People can Google it right now. You're wrong and I'm right, as ever. He said all Muslims will be banned from coming into the United States. He didn't say anything about 7 countries. That's what it became when he came into office. But he said he wanted to ban all Muslims from coming in. Surely you disagree with that?
No, Mehdi, in the end, I always say with Trump, act on what he does, not what comes out of his mouth, right? You don't like that.
And I've been telling you, I've got to run, but I've been telling you for the last 20 minutes what he's been doing, and you partly agreed with me. But now at the end, because you've got to do the both sides stuff, you've got to defend Trump.
How many countries
you don't agree with picking up Latinos outside of Home Depot. You don't agree. You don't agree with picking people up outside of Home Depot. The European Union says there was unnecessary violence against protesters in Sri Lanka, the unwarranted use of force against peaceful demonstrators.
The European Union had funded some of the agencies, and they called for my resignation. The same union thereafter praised me as the man who took Sri Lanka out of economic crisis. Look,
that kind of undermines your argument. You like it when they praise you, but not when they criticize you.
I don't like them when they play.
You just quoted them praising you. I got another one for you. You made your answer. I got another one. You don't like the EU. You don't like amnesty. UN human rights experts condemn the extensive, prolonged, repeated use of state emergency measures to crack down on peaceful protesters.
I'm sorry. I like
UN Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights.
Look, I like the EU.
You don't like the UN?
I did not talk about the UN.
Well, I quoted the UN too. You're still talking about the EU. We moved on from the EU.
Look, you finish everything you want to say about the UN, the League of Nations, the British Commonwealth, and then tell me after that I will answer.
Okay.
I have been in politics before you were born.
I know. I think I said that. I mean, some might say that's part of the problem. But let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. You don't like the EU, you don't like the UN, you don't like amnesty. So let me ask you about... Am I allowed to ask a question?
I wanted to correct one thing. I didn't say I don't like the EU.
Okay.
But we have now come to a stage in the world...
Okay. We cannot spend all night discussing your views of the EU. I watched a video of you, actually. You attended the birthday party of former President Mahinda Rajapaksa in November 2023. And there's a video of you singing as the cake arrives.
What's wrong?
Do you normally attend the birthdays of all the people you claim to be opposed to?
I mean, in Sri Lanka, we have our differences. But look, in our system, we go for social functions, weddings, funerals, all of that. Far as Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksa is concerned, up to date, neither the...
I have been opposing the Rajapaksas all of this time, you said.
You are now got cornered. No, you are trying to say that...
I'm not the one who was at a birthday with an alleged war criminal.
What does it matter? It's Attorney General who decides whether to prosecute or not. So do you say that our Attorney General...
I just want to be clear. No. I've been opposing the Rajapaksas all of this time. Are you opposed to them or not?
No. Maybe
why are you at the birthday party with an alleged war criminal?
You are not allowing me to finish. Then that's...
Because you're not answering the question.
No.
You do realize that's what politicians do. I'm not new to this game.
And actually, even if you forget about all the innocent Palestinians they killed, even if you don't give a shit about the people of Gaza, even if you only care about the people of Israel, Israel's not any safer today. Israel is not winning this war. John said on Times Radio a year ago, I went back and checked, March of last year, John said, we're very close to winning. Israel's close to victory. Over a year later, they're not close to victory. They're just starving children and denying baby formula. And the former Israeli general who ran the Gaza division said a few months ago, Hamas is winning this war.
Just targeting Hamas. That is, look at the imagery. That is something out of, I don't even know what to, is that Mad Max movie? It's entirety destruction. If that's not genocidal, I don't know what is. I haven't seen scenes like that in Ukraine, maybe in one town, Mariupol, but I haven't seen the entire Gaza Strip.
Mehdi, by every measurement of urban warfare, Israel has
Please don't give me a talking point, Joe.
No, I'm looking at that.
Respond to the footage.
I'm responding to the footage.
You don't give a damn about that.
No, I do. Don't say that.
Well,
I do give a damn. I do
Please
give
don't
a
give me
damn.
some talking about urban warfare stats.
No, it is.
I know the stats. I could give you stats. I'm asking you to
It
respond
is
to that
urban.
footage.
Agreed. And
entire cities
agreed.
and towns wiped
Gaza
out.
needs to be rebuilt.
That's
no
not
doubt.
engaging with the footage.
No, it is.
What is your human reaction to seeing entire towns, cities, refugee camps wiped out?
In the country will not allow you to
You
come
say
around
that. This is
the
great
death in
rhetoric.
Kenya.
How many police officers in Kenya have been prosecuted for their role in the violence in 2023 or 2024? Can you tell us how many?
I'll tell you from the last year's demonstrations, 3 are already in court.
3 police officers have been prosecuted.
Three are being prosecuted.
Are being prosecuted. None have been prosecuted.
Another 34 cases. Before you prosecute somebody, you have got to investigate.
So
you have to.
This is what Human Rights Watch said last year. Bodies of people showing signs of torture continue to turn up in rivers, forests, quarries, mortuaries. The authorities have yet to investigate or prosecute anyone for these crimes. Kenya has a history of police brutality and lack of accountability for serious abuse.
So
that's Human Rights Watch.
You want to believe what Human Rights Watch said, not what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because
I'm going to believe a human rights group over a politician who started by saying, I won't give you straight answers.
A federal appeals court on Wednesday ordered the Trump administration to transfer the abducted Tufts Fulbright scholar, international student Rumeysa Ozturk from Louisiana back to Vermont, where her case could be heard. You just interviewed the Massachusetts Congresswoman Breonna Presley about her treatment.
Horrific treatment. We're not just detaining foreign students in this country for speech crimes, Amy. We're torturing them too. If you listen to what happened to Badr Khansuri, who's a Georgetown student who was also detained, the torture that he's gone through, the abuse, the sleeping on the floor, the denial of clean underwear, and now Rumeysa Ozturk. Ayanna Pressley, Congresswoman, told me that when she went to see her, she was denied health care. She suffered severe asthma attacks. She had her hijab removed without consent. I mean, Louisiana, that detention center in Louisiana is famous for human rights crimes. So why are people being sent from Vermont and Massachusetts and New York, Mahmoud Khalil, to Louisiana? That in itself is a question we should ask ourselves. We're torturing people again.
So I'm sorry that your media brainwashes you, but the fact is President Trump is doing the hard work of righting the American economy, reindustrializing our nation. We were slipping into a service economy, and you cannot be a great power if you don't make things. You have to manufacture things. You have to make steel and aluminum. You have to be able to make your own ships, and you have to have your own rare earth minerals and prescription precursors.
Okay, let me ask Mehdi if he's been doing any brainwashing lately.
Well, first of all, the manufacturing boom has been, the manufacturing boom was happening on Biden's watch, as all the numbers showed. But in terms of, it's funny to talk about brainwashing when the entire MAGA message is Donald Trump and Fox brainwashing people into believing insane things like the last election was stolen. Last night on American television, on ABC News, Donald Trump tried to claim that a photoshopped image of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the man from Maryland, the El Salvadoran who had caught in the US, said could not be sent back to El Salvador. But he defied the court, the Trump administration, sent him illegally back to a torture camp in El Salvador. And Donald Trump went on live TV and 7 times, Adam, 7 times, he said that MS-13 was written on his knuckles, because this was the digitally photoshopped image that Trump was given by his aides and that they put out to right-wing media. It's a photoshopped image. Trump 7 times claimed to the audience that those numbers were really there on his hands. That is the level of delusion and gaslighting and dishonesty in this White House. I mean, every president lies. George Bush lied, Joe Biden lied, or Barack Obama lied. But no one lies like Trump.
Not a lot. Again, how do I answer somebody who says you voted to condemn Joe Wilson, but not Al Green? Law, you believe that the rules don't apply to your side. That would certainly be the common person's understanding of this.
I think
and there's not a
terrible
good answer to that.
I think you have a good answer. Actually, I think you yourself have given the answer in the past. I went through your Twitter for the last year.
God bless
Here's what you've been saying about Donald Trump. You said he's betrayed our democracy. He's taking us into a constitutional crisis. He is, quote, breaking our democracy. He is dismembering our democracy. These are all your words about what Trump is doing. I don't think anyone thinks Barack Obama was doing that. George Bush, I have many criticisms. I think he's committed war crimes in Iraq, but I don't think he was trying to dismember American democracy. Trump is sui generis. I think that is your argument that you can make to the imaginary person who says, why did you do that, but not this? You yourself have admitted that he is betraying our democracy, dismembering our democracy. If he's dismembering our democracy, then why on earth are you worried about the rules of what you do in the middle of his speech? A speech, by the way, in which he's insulting you to your face. He's calling you radical left lunatics. He's making racist jibes about Elizabeth Warren. You want to talk about politics? You guys look weak. The guy's bullying you and you're just sitting there quietly. Al Green looks strong.
Got us to where we are. Now, that said, I do have friends in the Arab American, Palestinian American, Muslim American community in places like Michigan who said Trump will be better than Biden or he won't be worse than Biden. And I said, you're insane. Right?
And went
It's
back
just,
and
just
talked
not.
to them.
And unfortunately, again, I don't like to be the I told you so guy. But we have Palestinians starving right now. We have famine-like conditions in Gaza. That is blessed by the United States of America. You have far-right Israeli politicians bragging that we have Donald Trump's support and green light to do whatever we want. You have Smotrich coming out just this week saying, God willing, we will expel all these people and expand the borders of Israel. That is all happening on Donald Trump's watch. The massacres are happening on Donald Trump's watch. A little girl we saw in the midst of flames with her family killed on Donald Trump's watch. 9 children of a pediatrician in Gaza massacred on Donald Trump's watch. The greatest single killing of children in one day, a few weeks ago, 200 Palestinian children killed after the ceasefire was broken by Israel on Donald Trump's
Maybe
watch.
Trump will be somewhere in this nebulous in between. Who knows? But what I want to do, because I've been so despairing of our politics, I'm trying to kind of think more positively. And I don't think there's any harm in doing that. And of course,
I mean, there is a little harm in that you're imagining things that aren't there. I mean, that's harm, right? You're saying, Trump's maybe better than we thought he was, even as he continues to give speeches that are batshit crazy.
Yeah, well, look, I don't think the speech in the RNC that he gave was batshit crazy. It was just a lot of it was just normal Trump.
But that normal Trump is batshit crazy. This is the mistake you're making. You're basically saying, because he's denied the election before and said they cheated using COVID, that's normal Trump. That's not a normal thing to say in any democracy, that your opponents cheated using COVID.
You're stuck in a lift. Who would you rather be stuck with, Marjorie Taylor Greene or Liz Truss? Quick!
Marjorie Taylor Greene, because Liz Truss would bore the shit out of me.
You're consigned to a desert island and can only take one box set with you. Is it the Die Hard series or Fast and Furious?
Oh, I love them both.
One.
It's got to be Die Hard.
Who is your Bollywood hero, Shah Rukh Khan or Amir Khan?
Shah Rukh Khan.
Notwithstanding, Amir Khan made Lagan, guys. God's sake.
I mean, I'll be honest, given that neither of them have the guts to say anything to Modi, I've been disappointed in both of them over the last few years.
That is so going to go viral in India. Okay, notwithstanding the fact that you co-wrote a biography of Ed Miliband, which was the best Prime Minister the UK never had? Ed Miliband or Jeremy Corbyn?
That's a great question. I would say, given that we're in the middle of a genocide and that Jeremy Corbyn is opposed to genocide, I would say Jeremy Corbyn.
Are you concerned about getting deported?
Well, yes and no. Yes.
Since Trump is deporting people for not liking their ideology, you're also brown.
So,
and
yes,
Muslim.
because I'm a brown Muslim naturalized citizen, and they're coming for the naturalized citizens next, for sure. No, because I don't like using the word deportation in the context of Americans. We shouldn't let them use it. You cannot deport an American by definition. So I think we, as journalists, I'm trying to get people to change. When they sent that 2-year-old to Honduras, 2-year-old American, the headlines were deported. No, you cannot by definition deport an American. That 2-year-old was kidnapped and expelled from this country. And that's how we should talk about it. But yes, I am concerned. You saw what happened. I don't know how many of you have seen the news today to Hassan Piker,
who was stopped coming back into the US and asked about his views on Hamas. And
Rachel can do it. And this Rachel, again, has a big platform. She's threatened. She's huge YouTube following. She said, I don't care if my career is
She
ruined.
also hasn't been political at all.
Not at all.
About
I don't know whether Miss Rachel supports a two-state solution or a one-state solution. Like, she just said, don't amputate kids.
Yeah.
Right? Don't give Gaza the biggest pediatric amputee cohort in the history of the world.
That's the truth.
Right? Just don't do that, the bare minimum. But you're so right to say that we expect so much or so little from celebrities when ordinary people are doing it every day. There are people who have lost their jobs who come to me and tell me at events that they've lost their jobs, or they're threatened at work, or they're threatened in there, and it's college students who are able to do it. And it's really depressing when I see sports stars and movies. I think about someone like Muhammad Ali, who was a hero to me, went to prison rather than go serve in Vietnam. He said, no Vietnam ever called me the N-word. And then I look at today's NBA and NFL stars. I'm like, none of you could, touch the dust on Muhammad Ali's feet. Because where are you?
When you look at, for example, the situation with Mahmoud Khalil, I know you're based in New York. What happened to this Columbia grad student whose wife recently gave birth? He asked, could he be let out from Louisiana for a couple of weeks to go be with his wife? And I said no. He's being held, a permanent resident, husband of an American citizen who just had an American child, because of his speech, his views. They've got nothing else on him. We've seen no evidence of terrorism, support for Hamas, just because he...
The majority of Americans were critical of Israel or are not supportive of Israel for the first time. And I looked at that number and I thought, wow, a majority of Americans, a slim majority, that's despite the media coverage in favor of Israel. Imagine if Americans actually got fair coverage of this conflict and actually heard from Palestine. Those numbers would be even higher. And I think the real tragedy is that the media has been complicit in the Gaza genocide. I'll give you one example. Over the last few weeks, Palestinians have been starved in Gaza by the Israelis. And according to one study, not a single Sunday show in this country has mentioned it. It doesn't matter if you're a journalist, you're a Palestinian. And that is the devaluing, dehumanizing prism through which Western media, Western governments unfortunately view this one people. Just this week, the President of the United States once again referred to Chuck Schumer as a Palestinian, as a pejorative. The only man I know who can be anti-Semitic and anti-Arab at the same time, right? But that is where we are now. And this is the problem. And this is why it reduces, why do we not care about the Palestinians being, why is it that journalists, as Abdurrahim pointed out, at the White House Correspondents' Dinner got very excited for Austin Tice and for Evan and for everyone else. We haven't seen those prominent CNN, NBC, ABC, CBS anchors make the same noise about not just Shireen, but about their colleagues being killed daily in Gaza. There's only one answer to that question, because they're Palestinian. And I think we have to deal with that racism that's at the core of a lot of this.
Fair show. Are you an economist? I'm going to major in economics.
He hasn't even majored yet.
No, that's his plan. He hasn't declared yet. He's
going. The kid that said, "I'm a future army soldier."
I got to say three quick things about Joseph, because he's been putting out videos on social media. He's loving his profile this week. He thinks he got some stuff right. A couple of things. One is his big thing. He came with all these kind of studies and economic policy institute. He didn't actually engage with what I was talking about. He assumed I was quoting a study from Giovanni Perri, which I wasn't. I was quoting a study from 2024, the Hoover Institution folks, that was published in the NBER. But what's really funny, that's the first point. The second point is that Republicans are always like, oh, Democrats, they're so emotional. Women, they're so emotional. This guy was shaking the whole time, was so coiled up, ready to explode to talk about wages. And the last point is he doesn't give a shit about wages or immigration or the economic argument, because ultimately it came into, we didn't get to that point in the clip, get out of my country. When I said I'm an immigrant, he said, I want you out. He said that multiple, you'll be the first to go. So you can dress up all your arguments with as many studies and wage graphs as you like. Ultimately, these folks are white supremacists. Through this. Yeah. Just what do the Iranians do next in terms of the nuclear program now? Because one thing I've been saying for a while is that there are only two options. You either do a deal or you invade and occupy the country. This bombing stuff does not work. You can bomb Fordo, but as you say, they can move the materials. They can move the scientists. We can flatten Iran, God help us all, to the United States illegally and criminally, but they can just rebuild, right? This is all about timelines. All we're doing is delaying the inevitable. If we actually want to prevent them having nuclear weapons, there's a deal to be done. There's no bombing campaign that can end the nuclear, unquote, threat from Iran. He's a Knesset member in Israel. He's a member of Bezalel Smotrich Religious Zionism Party, the far-right party in Israel. He was interviewed by Channel 4 News by Sikandar Kermani. Have a listen to this exchange.
A year and a half of very intense war with a lot of civilian casualties in Gaza shows that it's not possible to militarily alone defeat Hamas.
A year and a half under the Biden administration that forced us to fight Hamas with one hand, but to feed them with the other. So I can tell you that now the war is going to be handled in a totally different way, with the Trump administration, with the backing of America. Trump himself said
what is it fighting this war in a different way? What does it mean?
That all hell should break on Gaza if they're not bringing back all hostages.
What does unleashing hell look like? I mean, you've already seen under, as you say, the Biden administration, daily death tolls of around 300-400 people a day.
You will see exactly what it means.
From the horse's mouth there, you have Israeli politicians openly saying that Biden, who, as you and I have discussed, gave Israel complete and utter support, all the weaponry and money they wanted. That wasn't enough. He made us, what's the line he said? He forced us to fight Hamas with one hand, but feed them with the other. It's going to be different under Trump. I mean, that's from the Israelis themselves. Mahmoud Khalil, Columbia grad student, green card holder, married to an American citizen. Rumeysa, the Turkish student at Tufts. Horrific video.
The footage of
the
her
footage.
being
I've watched
taken,
it several times, and every time
I know,
it's horrifying.
You can't believe
They
it.
come up in masks, man. They don't provide any ID. They just
She
grab
says,
her
I'm calling the police. They're like, we are the police.
It's weird because Republicans believe in stand your ground, right? They've passed stand your ground state. How did they know she wouldn't have pulled out a gun and shot them as I felt threatened? Like, I know it's Massachusetts, not Florida, but it's insane that a masked man can come and grab you by the wrist with no ID and you're supposed to go along with them in America,
right?
Of all places.
And
don't tread on me.
And deporting people who are supposed to be gang members to countries they're not even originally from.
With no shred of evidence that they're
today
gang.
is universally viewed as a huge failure.
Yes.
In foreign policy, specifically American foreign policy and America's overreaction. 22 years later, October 7th happens. We have the same play, but much faster. Heartbreak, shock, racism, military overreaction, protest, backlash. The dust settles, question mark. What similarities do you see in the arcs of both of those stories in American history?
Who's an Egyptian-Canadian journalist, has a new book out called One Day Everyone Will Always Have Been Against This. It's about Gaza. When I saw that title and I've read the book and I interviewed the guy, it just does bring back Iraq memories and war on terror memories. Sure. Everyone's now saying, oh, Afghanistan was a disaster. But I was the guy writing Afghanistan's a disaster in 2009, 10, 11 and getting attacked for it. Like, you're pro-Taliban for saying that. I was the guy who marched against the Iraq war with millions of other people. We were told we were stooges for Saddam Hussein. Today, everyone's against the Iraq war. So I do think in years to come, if we have a future, historians will look back and say a bunch of people in the West were on the wrong side of a genocide. And I think they will regret having been on the wrong side of history on this one. I just don't think you can defend what people have done to enable this genocide, be complicit in this genocide. From the President of the United States to media owners, to journalists who didn't say a word about their fellow journalists in Gaza being killed at record levels. I think a lot of people, if they have any shame whatsoever, and the problem is we have a lot of shameless people these days who you can't shame, and I'm not concerned about the right-wingers because they are shameless. I'm talking about the liberals, the progressives, the people who feel good about themselves, take all the right stances on every issue except Palestine. The PEPs, progressive except Palestine. I think they will look back in years to come and feel utter shame for what they supported or at least turned a blind eye to. I do believe.
Question: what did they do? Just some of the things that Donald Trump has done in 10 days. Just a few. I just want to run through them very fast. He pardoned January 6th insurrectionists. He pulled America out of the climate change agreement, the Paris Agreement again. He signed a bunch of executive orders trying to end asylum at the southern border, trying to end DEI in government, trying to end birthright citizenship. He said ICE can grab people from churches. He called for MSNBC to lose their broadcasting license. He fired DOJ people. He fired NLRB people. He illegally fired 18 inspectors general for the federal government. He tried to freeze federal grants and funding. He said clean out Gaza of all its people. He sent 2,000-pound bombs to Israel. He threatened Denmark. He threatened Colombia. He threatened Panama. He renamed the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. He told Mark Milley.
Mehdi, I
There's
think
a lot.
we get it. It's a lot.
It's a lot. I could keep going, but yeah, there's a lot.
You could keep going, and we'd be here all day. And
But that really does overwhelm the media, the Democrats, the public. Where do you focus your attention when you're being shocked and awed like that?
If you don't want to be called Nazis, stop doing.
You're called an anti-Semite more than anyone else's table. And people would sit there. No, by me. I never called you an anti-Semite. I mean, I'm not sitting here saying
I'm a supporter of the Palestinians, so I'm used to it.
Yeah, I hope your beeper doesn't go off. The thing is that
you just say I should die.
You should not.
No,
Did you just say I should be killed?
No, I did not say that. No, I did not say that.
Did your guest just say I should be killed on live TV?
He basically said that you were a terrorist and you should die.
Yeah.
In your experience with American liberal media, do you think moments like that are outliers, or is something like this always bubbling underneath the surface?
He thought he could get away with it and just carry on the show. And had I not walked out, they probably wouldn't have kicked him out as well. And I had to, and people have said to me afterwards, "Oh, you handled it so well." I don't think I handled it well. I was kind of super emotional, super angry. Luckily, I have no skills in life apart from God gave me a big mouth, and I was able to call him out right then and there, which maybe some other people wouldn't have done. But I don't take any credit for that. It's just something I did in the heat of the moment, instinctively, that I wasn't going to let that comment pass. I mean, you see my face if you watch that clip. I'm kind of like, did you just? And this beeper thing, by the way, has now become a very common trope in right-wing pro-Israel circles. If you go on Twitter, people will just put beeper emojis underneath pro-Palestinian accounts. Norman Finkelstein, who was stopped in the street in Brooklyn, and somebody came up with a beeper in his pocket, and to say he's pro-terrorist and he should die. So this is the kind of crap. Again, it's the dehumanization of Arabs, Muslims, Palestinians. You just wouldn't do this in any other political context.
We are seeing really good turnout of people. Like, the only way you stop fascists is people power. And people think, protesting doesn't do anything, voting doesn't do anything. In a small town in New York State where Tom Homan, who's the Trump border czar, who my colleague John Harwood at Zeteo called the face of Donald Trump's cruelty. Just look at him. He just looks like a cruel man. And when he opens his mouth, he is a cruel man. He's the guy deporting even American citizens proudly. He says he'll deport. They rounded up a woman and her 3 children in this small little town of 1,300 people. And they put 3rd graders, 8 years old, they put him in handcuffs. That's what we're doing in America now. 8-year-old kids put in handcuffs and detain them. 1,300 people live in that town where Tom Homan lives. It's his town. 1,000 people turned up to protest outside his house. Right, so the entire town turned up for their local undocumented neighbors. That's what we need to see more of. And guess what? They released the family. So these people can be beaten, right? Don't let anyone tell you that it's hopeless. Because again, that's what they want, right? They want us to be hopeless.
50%. Half of all younger Republicans, the kind of people who are listening to Joe Rogan and Theo Von. Theo Von, the very popular podcaster who basically backed Trump, turned up to Trump's inauguration, sat and cried on his podcast. He talked about crying. He said, Gaza, they're killing kids. It's a genocide. He also had dinner with Jared and Ivanka, which is weird. But put that to one side. He actually came out and did a podcast. So when they're listening to these podcasters, they're hearing much more pro-Palestinian opinion than they've ever heard from mainstream media. It's interesting that young Republicans, Americans as a whole, swing voters, and a lot of Democrats are all saying, we got a negative view of Israel. We did a poll at Zeteo last year. 50% of Democrats said it's a genocide. Now, the problem here is that the democratic system does not reflect the will of the people in a way that other European countries do. It's funny that America takes great pride in being the great democracy, but we have a systemic problem here where public opinion doesn't necessarily translate into political action because of the way the Senate and the House are set up, because of the way of the election.
To say they spoke to 5 people who corroborated reports that the U.S. and Israel are discussing the U.S. potentially leading a temporary post-war administration of Gaza. Your response?
Kill me now is my response. Kill me now. Or do we live in an episode of idiocracy? The American government sat around, forget Donald Trump, man's an idiot, ignoramus, couldn't find Gaza on a map. But people in his administration, qualified people, sat around the table and said, what should we do about Gaza, the biggest problem in the world today, geopolitical issue? Let's do what we did in Iraq. Right, the Iraq, for those people who are watching who are not old enough to remember 2003, 4, 5, I've interviewed Paul Bremer. The Bush administration sent a viceroy, sent Paul Bremer to run the country with a bunch of kids. Some of them were out, some of them had only, there was one guy who went out to the Green Zone, I famously remember, who had only run an ice cream truck in college. They sent a bunch of children and Paul Bremer to run Iraq like a colonial project. It was an absolute disaster. It increased sectarian tensions. It increased violence. It divided the country. It fomented more violent resistance. The idea that the people of Gaza, who have resisted Israeli occupation for decades, are now going to say, well, we only had an issue with Israeli occupation. We're fine with a US occupation. This is absurd. Some of us warned since October the 7th that if you really care about stopping Hamas, why are you creating the conditions for Hamas 2.0? And this is going to be Hamas 3.0, Hamas on steroids, if you create a situation where the American government, American military is on the ground in Gaza trying to control the population.
Don't we have an idea?
What's interesting, though, is when Donald Trump is asked in the Time magazine 100-day interview about the 9-0 Supreme Court unanimous decision saying he must facilitate the return of Kilmar. He says, well, my aides told me that I won that case.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa.
Yeah,
and this is like complete man in a bubble.
Yes.
Whose people are just telling him up is down, black is white, and he's believing he can't read his own Supreme Court decision. Is he that dumb?
Yeah, you think Trump reads Supreme Court
4
decisions?
pages.
I don't, there's a lot of pretty serious legal writing in there. There's no way he reads that. There's no way he read it the first time, right? No. I mean, the PDP, remember presidential.
To not even know the content, like you lost.
Yeah.
Like, well, I know you don't accept you lost an election, but now you don't accept you lost a Supreme Court ruling.
And I can see it. Like, I can see one of Trump's people, not wanting to tell him that he lost because they don't want to make him mad.
At the
so they're like,
packed.
Right. So they're like, you won-ish, sort of. We're doing what we can. So that I do think is probably what happened. And look, I think.
But it's worrying, right? If you think Stephen Miller is really running the country.
Yeah, no. I mean, though, is it better to have Stephen Miller run the country than Donald Trump? I'm not convinced.
I don't know. What was it Lindsey Graham once said about choosing between Ted Cruz and Donald Trump? Is like choosing between being poisoned and being shot.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not convinced that his aides are worse than he is, but that's
a fair point.
I mean, it's all bad. Look, there's no, I'm like the cockeyed
Do you want to be
optimist.
governed by sane fascists or insane fascists?
To one side. It is Western doctors who have come back to the UK, the US, Canada. We had Dr. Yasser Khan from Canada on my show with Naomi Klein recently, talking about what they saw with their own lying eyes. And I think that's been crucial. You played that clip from Nick Maynard. Nick Maynard is a white, British, posh dude. You heard his accent. Super posh Englishman from Oxford University Hospital, a leading surgeon in the UK. He is saying that when I went into Gaza, they took the baby formula out of my pockets. He has said this week that I treated people who were shot by quadcopters, mothers while breastfeeding. I mean, this is evil that is Rwanda level evil. This is stuff that, we have to exhume Milosevic's body and apologize to him for trying him as a war criminal if we don't try all the people involved.
Recount the events of a couple of days was exhausting. I mean, you are now living with this. You've made yourself one of the key sort of Trump critics and inquisitors of Trump land. Is it totally exhausting, or are you just enjoying every minute of it? I know you're not a man to run away. You like an argument.
It is. I do like an argument, and I just did a big debate with a bunch of Trump supporters that went viral. But I'll tell you this, it is exhausting. It is mentally and emotionally exhausting, both as a journalist, as an immigrant, as a Muslim. Like, I wear a lot of hats that the MAGA base and Trump folks don't like. And it is very exhausting. I'm bringing up 2 children in the United States. In this country right now, we are 6 months into Trump's second term. Ask anyone here, supporter or critic, it feels like 6 years of Trump. That's how much he's thrown, to quote Steve Bannon, he's flooded the zone with excrement, I think was the phrase, I'll use politely phrase, that Bannon used a few years ago. That's what he does every day. It's a new shiny object for people to chase after, something controversial, something illegal, something racist, something just completely insane.
Do we have an idea? What did Trump tweet out that the video, the 30-second video of
with a gold statue
Elon
of Trump
Musk, a gold statue of Trump, and then Trump and Netanyahu on the beach.
He loves his AI videos of himself. It's an insane video. We all just moved on for it because there's so much happening in the news, but I'm glad you reminded that. Look, he's been consistently clear on one thing: ethnic cleansing, relocation of Palestinians, creating Gaza the Riviera. He's obsessed with the beachfront property because he's a real estate guy / war criminal endorser.
Really, honestly, and where are we heading here? We're literally ending in a situation where we're saying someone chanting death to a foreign military force causing killing, which is committing genocide, that's worse than the Nazis. Listen to the discourse and how we say this.
That we've done a lot of normalizing of Nazis since October the 7th. I remember the Douglas Murray column in the Jewish Chronicle of all places, where he said, well, at least the SS, they didn't enjoy themselves when they were killing Jews, which is not true, in order to try and make the Palestinians and Hamas be sound worse than the Nazis. I would say this, though, and I do think this isn't just some spontaneous, as you and I both know, shock at comments at Glastonbury. This is a deliberate strategy to distract from the genocide in Gaza. It's a deliberate strategy for everyone who's had to shut up for the last few months as things have become intolerable in Gaza. The same people who were loudly defending the Israeli military have gone kind of quiet in recent months because no one can defend the starving of children and the denial of diapers and nappies going into Gaza. So you have a lot of the pro-IDF Western liberal folks go quiet. The big one. In June 2025, in the midst of their bitter feud, billionaire and former Trump ally and donor Elon Musk tweets, "Time to drop the really big bomb. Donald Trump is in the Epstein files." Now, Musk has since deleted that tweet. Maybe he realized it doesn't look great to have funded someone you claim was associated with a pedophile. But still, Musk made this huge accusation about Trump. And then we all just moved on from it. We're only now talking about Epstein again because Trump's bumbling AG, after claiming in February that the Epstein client list was sitting on her desk, is now saying that list apparently doesn't even exist. And yet Trump, earlier this month, rushed to her defense and insisted we go back to not talking about his old pal, Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, sure.
Did I just interrupt for 1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years.
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein.
The president should actually count himself lucky that the media and MAGA are only asking Bondi questions about Epstein, because the real person who should be answering questions about Epstein and his own decades-long friendship and association with a man described by a judge as the most infamous pedophile in American history and who died mysteriously in federal prison during his presidency.
Is that the guy with the hat and the mustache? We got to put him on screen now.
There's a moment where he defends the killing of Palestinian kids by Israeli snipers. Well, maybe they weren't so innocent. Maybe they were Hamas. Maybe they were being brainwashed. Yeah. And I look around the room and I say, do you guys agree with that? Shooting people, kids in the head? And they're like, no. And I said, look, even the white supremacists think you've gone too far, my friend. So there's that weird moment where, as you say, they don't want to be seen as like, we're not child killers. We just want to protect our borders. Right. We just want the 14 words. But we don't want to kill foreign children. Look, maybe. And look, I'm having this discussion all the time. Tim, as you can imagine, the circles I move in on the left, in Muslim, in Arab American circles, I get this all the time. Oh, you should be allying with Candace Owens. What about Tucker? Why haven't you had Tucker Carlson on your show? Isn't Marjorie Taylor Greene great? And I'm saying, no, these people don't give a shit about Palestinians. Their animus towards Israel is driven by anti-Semitism and by isolationism. That is not what our opposition to Israel is driven by or should be driven by. And look, I have so many Muslim friends who tell me, like, Tucker Carlson's their new hero. And I have to remind them that Tucker Carlson turned up at the Turning Points USA conference the other day and said, I want my country back. I don't want my city smelling like weed and halal. is what he said. And I was like, that's who Tucker Carlson is. He's not a friend of Muslims. He just happens to be on this anti-Israel move at the moment, which, of course, look, I enjoyed the Ted Cruz takedown as much as anyone else. But the point is, Tucker Carlson, I've, as someone on the left, I've never adopted the enemy of my enemy is my friend philosophy that Ronald Reagan and co-adopted. That's never been my position. Is Gaza a wedge issue? I think it might be, but not in a good way, Tim. I think it's probably in a bad way.
Yeah. There's this conversation on the right now. You mentioned Marjorie Taylor Greene. There's also been Steve Bannon, Tucker Carlson, some of the people at the core of the ideology that has brought Trump to office, some of the people that Trump listens to on some of his policy decisions. They have been increasingly critical of the U.S.'s unbridled support for Israel.
I wouldn't exaggerate it too much. The probably two of the biggest right-wing media organizations in this country are Fox News and the Daily Wire, and they are still super pro-Israel. In fact, there's been reporting that Donald Trump decided to bomb Iran because he watched a lot of Fox, and Fox hosts were making the case to bomb Iran. So that is the influence of right-wing media still, which is super pro-Israel. Look at the New York Post, owned by Rupert Murdoch, which is running a pro-Israel, anti-Mamdani campaign right now. So that's one point. The other point I would make is a lot of these guys who are anti-Israel now on the right, I mean, they're not anti-Israel for the reasons you and I are anti-Israel. It's not because they believe in justice and equality. It's because they're nationalists. It's because they don't want to spend money abroad. They want to spend money at home. Maybe some of them are anti-Semites. They don't like Jews. I mean, the right can have their own transformation on Israel. I'm not on the right, so let them do whatever they want to do. My point is that the genuine principled opposition is still coming. I've fought that battle for 10 years as a journalist, both in mainstream media and independent media. Just don't normalize this stuff. I see interviewers on Sunday morning shows just give complete passes to Trump officials. You've seen it. You must have screamed at the TV when the host just doesn't ask the obvious question about corruption or illegality because they want that Trump official to come back on, or they just want to be friends with that Trump official, or they think, oh, that's an old story. If I was a Sunday morning host, or if I was getting these Trump people, a lot of them won't talk to me. Surprise, surprise. If I was getting them on, I would open every interview with, oh, January 6th, do you agree with the pardon of the police officer? Just don't move on from that. Why have we moved on from that? It's a hugely unpopular, outrageous thing that he did. Republicans cannot defend it. J.D. Vance couldn't defend it when he was asked about it. Just keep asking. Don't just be like, that's an old story. Right. Keep at the stories that matter.
Right. Well, let me ask you a great answer.
But this is the Donald Trump way of doing things. He creates a problem, then offers a solution to it and says, praise me for the solution to the problem I created. I mean, he bombed Iran. The fact that he took an off-ramp from bombing Iran doesn't change the fact that he took the on-ramp to bomb Iran, which is something George Bush didn't do, Barack Obama didn't do, Joe Biden didn't do.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Donald Trump, this is what he does all the time. He walks you up to the cliff and then walks back and then wants credit for walking back from the cliff.
One of the most powerful moments in the film from Dr. Khalid Hamouda, who was a surgeon, who is a surgeon in Gaza, now in Egypt, who was bombed in his home with his family, a family of other doctors. At first, 10 people killed. They then flee, him, his wife, his child, and they go down the street. By the way, his house is blown up, not the entire street, just his house. They then go down the street to take refuge, and a drone follows them down the street and attacks them again. And he wakes up in a hospital and sees a nurse carrying his child, his daughter, who's dead. The next morning, his wife, the mother of his child, is also dead. He's told, killed. He's the only survivor, or one of the only survivors, I believe, from that massacre. And she says, Romina Navarro, you were targeted? He says, yes. The drone came and targeted us. And this is what we heard from the World Central Kitchen folks when they were in the humanitarian convoy and they were targeted car to car to car. This is what we've heard from journalists, of course. And this is what we have to get our heads around, that the United States of America has been arming and funding a country that is systematically, this is a key word here, destroying the Gaza healthcare.
You work with kids. That's literally what you do. You entertain children. You make them laugh. You help them potty train. You see them at their most vulnerable. And you're doing that on YouTube. And then at the same time, you're speaking out and sharing videos and talking about, I think you wished, I saw a post of yours recently where you actually, it would have been Hind Rajab's birthday. You're doing that at the same time. I'm just wondering how you're doing both.
You know, it's not easy, but I always think about what's going on over there, and then it becomes just something you have to do.
I think the damage that's been done to the media's credibility over the last 21 months, the mainstream media's credibility, by its inability to report clearly on the genocide, by its inability to use the active voice over the passive voice in its headlines, by its inability to treat Palestinians as humans, by its inability to stand with Palestinian journalists. One thing I will never forgive my Western media colleagues for is their silence when hundreds of Palestinians were being killed. And by the way, in Tehran, where they bombed state TV while the host was live on air, and 99% of British, American, Canadian journalists have said not a word in support of their Iranian media colleagues. So that, I think, is you cannot undo this.
Was there any hope that he could be bribed enough?
I mean, the Qataris gave him a $600 million plane. The Emiratis give him, the Saudis, my favorite. Do you see what the Saudis did when Trump went to Saudi Arabia? They parked a mobile McDonald's van outside his hotel. Like, because Trump refuses to eat foreign food, by the way. When he goes abroad, he only wants to eat like Big Macs and steak. He's paranoid about getting poisoned. He's also a racist, so he doesn't like foreign food, I assume. Like, if I ever become leader of a world nation, which I won't, you could park a mobile Nando's truck outside wherever I'm staying. But the bribery, there is look, that was the argument I heard from a lot of Arab Americans, Palestinian Americans, like, he's transactional, like, MBA. Yeah. But that assumes that those foreign leaders give a shit about the Palestinians, and they don't, right? So if they are bribing him, if they are building Trump golf courses and Trump cities and Trump whatever else it is around the world, they're doing that for their own interests.
In a few words, how would you describe American society under Trump?
A shit show. It is a shit show. I don't know. I once said on the BBC, and I said I can't say shit show. I don't know what you can say on your show, but I'm calling it a shit show. It is. I mean, that's an understatement. It is. If term one of Trump was a lot, this is term one on steroids. Really, he said in his address to Congress, "I've done more in my first 100 days than most presidents do in 4 years." And Donald Trump lies with almost every breath. But they say it's like a stopped clock is right twice a day. He was right when he said that. He wasn't lying. He did it. He has done more than most presidents do in 4 years. It's just he's done more damage. He's done an astonishing amount of damage to the United States government, to U.S. society, and to the wider world. And that's what we're seeing. And Elon Musk as well, who you just mentioned in your intro, is leaving a failure, but a failure who's done massive damage to the global humanitarian scene.
12 months later, celebrating with your war, me, a Muslim immigrant journalist, I'm the Trump trifecta, running a U.S. media company, a successful U.S. media company in 2025. So tonight is a celebration of journalism, of independent journalism. It's a celebration of a media company that launched last year with the kind of bravado and confidence that you only hear from journalists who say stuff like, how hard can this be? Fucking hard is the answer to that question. I have not slept for the past year, nor has my team. It's been very tiring. If I haven't replied to emails or texts of yours for the last year, that's the reason why. I've been tired, I've been overworked, or I don't give a fuck about you, but no, I love you all. I love you, especially for coming tonight, most of you. Running a startup is a challenge, especially for a journalist with no business background like myself. Raising the money, filling in the forms, dealing with regulations. Those of you who are thinking of joining Substack and doing that, it makes you almost want to become a Republican, right? I'm a lefty, and I'm looking at some of this stuff, almost. The white supremacy is still a deal breaker for me. I have a lot of thanks to do tonight. I'm going to try and keep it short. I have so many people to thank, but before I go anywhere, I've got to thank those of you who pretend to know what Zeteo is, right? We are not a Mediterranean restaurant. We are not the name of a new cryptocurrency. It is an ancient Greek word that means to seek out, to inquire, to look for the truth. And our number one goal when we launched was to find the truth, tell the truth, defend the truth.